Zayn Henley had never thought much about the cosmos beyond the dull twinkle of faraway stars, nor had he ever suspected that Chicago's night sky concealed a destiny too wild to imagine. He was a proud mechanic, tinkering with the entrails of battered trucks and the hulking remains of old convertibles. His father had taught him everything he knew about the internal workings of automobiles, and now, at 28 years of age, Zayn prided himself on keeping the local community rolling. His garage, a little building braced against a rundown part of the city, was simultaneously his workshop, his haven, and the stage upon which his life would be forever changed. On a crisp autumn evening, the moon hung low over the alley behind his workshop, and Zayn leaned against the open hood of a dented SUV, wiping sweat from his brow. He was alone, but the comfort of his solitary labor lulled him into a contented state. The gentle hum of an overhead light, the faint smell of motor oil, and the clang of tools hitting the concrete floor all formed the backdrop of his daily routine. In a life that rarely stirred beyond the city limits, he found stability in the humdrum tasks of engine repair. He was, at that particular moment, struggling with a seized bolt beneath the SUV's exhaust manifold. A grunt of frustration escaped his lips as he tugged on the wrench. Then, in the stillness of the night, something shifted. A hush, as though the world itself paused, descended upon the garage. The overhead light flickered ominously, painting the walls and the scattered heaps of tools with dancing shadows. A sudden electric crackle made Zayn jerk his head upward, and the wrench he was gripping nearly slipped from his hand. Yet the light stabilized as swiftly as it had faltered, leaving him puzzled but not entirely alarmed. Chicago's power grid was prone to the odd surge or blackout, after all. Resuming his grip on the wrench, he turned the bolt an inch before he heard the rustle of movement coming from behind him. He spun on his heel, half expecting to see a stray dog nosing around for scraps. Instead, two impossibly tall figures stood in the dim glow of the overhead lamp. Their skin, a rich shade of lavender so dark it verged on violet, shimmered in the fluorescent light. They wore tight-fitting attire that was neither purely metallic nor purely organic, but rather something in between, an alien textile that bent the light in swirling patterns. One figure, a woman with elongated limbs and hauntingly bright eyes that resembled polished silver, extended a hand. Zayn, heart-thundering, blinked at her in utter disbelief. This was no costumed street performer. The edges of her collar showed advanced technology beyond anything he had seen, glowing faintly with a pulsing teal light. The woman's voice, resonant and surprisingly gentle, caressed the air. "Are you Zayn Henley of Chicago? Earth date matches your presence here. Apologies for the abruptness, but we come under urgent directive." Her companion, also female, but taller and more imposing, crossed her arms. She had golden markings along her collarbone and stern features that spoke of authority or perhaps an unyielding spirit. Yet there was a trace of hesitation in her posture, as if she were uncertain about how to proceed. Zayn struggled for words, unable to comprehend how these two otherworldly beings had found him, or, more baffling still, why they knew his name. Why yes, that's me," he managed, voice trembling. He felt an undercurrent of tension in the air, as though the confines of his garage had transformed into an arena of cosmic significance. The first alien woman, her silver eyes flickering with a hint of relief, nodded. "Then it is our duty, according to the Galactic Marriage Act, to request your presence on the Interstellar Unity Station. You have been selected by priority lottery." Zayn's lips parted in shock, his mind spinning at her words. Galactic Marriage Act? Priority lottery? Nothing in his ordinary life had prepared him for such a revelation. He could scarcely breathe as he sought to piece together what was happening. Wait, hold on," he stammered, stepping backward and nearly stumbling over an oil pan. "What does that even mean? I'm just a guy from the South Side." The woman with the stern face gently cleared her throat. "It is written in our laws that every eligible woman of the Federation must secure a human husband. You, Earthman, have become entangled in an interstellar mandate beyond your knowledge. Now, you must come with us." Zayn wanted to laugh, or scream, or both. He rubbed his eyes, half convinced this was some elaborate dream fueled by exhaustion. How could an ordinary mechanic become embroiled in something so ludicrous? And yet, the cold, otherworldly luminescence of these visitors' eyes shattered any notion that he was imagining it. "I am Princess Telera of Anthea," said the first woman with silver eyes, her voice laden with dignity. "This is Officer Cora, my guardian. We come from the planet Volater." She gestured to her companion, the imposing figure with gold markings. "Please, do not be alarmed. Our mission is sanctioned by the High Council. Once your presence is confirmed, we shall depart to the orbiting station. If not for the sincerity in Tellerra's tone, Zayn might have questioned her royalty. But as he stood there, mouth ajar, he noticed the regal bearing in her stance. She held her head high, spoke with measured eloquence, and wore a subtle pendant around her neck, etched with an emblem that hinted at royal affiliation. Before Zayn could protest further, Cora tapped an apparatus on her forearm. In a flash, the dim garage was bathed in an aura of shimmering turquoise light. A tingling sensation pricked Zayn's skin, and the metallic tools around him rattled noisily. Slowly, agonizingly, he felt gravity lose its grip on his body, and he and the two alien women were consumed by a luminous beam that carried them upward, piercing the roof of the garage as though it were mist. When the light receded, Zayn found himself aboard a gleaming corridor with walls made of metal so polished it reflected distant star clusters. His stomach lurched from the abrupt displacement, and the smell of ozone tingled in his nostrils. He turned to his captors, though captors might not be the correct term, for they had thus far shown no violence, and swallowed. "Where am I? Is this?" Tellerra gave a soft, sympathetic nod. "We have arrived in orbit, just above your planet, in the Federation's collector vessel. Fear not, Zayn Henley, you will come to no harm here." Cora offered no words, merely stood with arms folded, as though on constant alert. Zayn felt his chest tighten. He was a man in overalls, grease under his fingernails, thrust abruptly into an environment that belonged in a futuristic novel. The corridor pulsed with faint lights, flickering in patterns reminiscent of breathing. Tellerra guided him forward, deeper into the vessel. The windows revealed Earth below, a brilliant blue sphere wrapped in swirling white clouds. Zayn felt his heart clench with longing and fear, for he was no astronaut. He'd never soared so high, even in his wildest dreams. Yet there it was, tangible as anything, home, viewed from the chilling vantage of space. They arrived at a room humming with complicated machinery, each device purring with subdued energy. A cylindrical platform stood at the center, surrounded by half a dozen technicians with lilac-hued skin, each wearing a similar form of advanced uniform. These technicians had slender fingers dancing across holographic consoles, manipulating shapes and diagrams that Zayn could not comprehend. One of them, a younger-looking alien with gentle eyes, approached. "Zayn Henley, please stand on the platform so we may begin preliminary scanning." His voice echoed with warmth, as though trying to soothe an anxious child. Zayn, lacking any immediate alternative and feeling exhausted by the onrush of the impossible, complied. He stepped up onto the platform, feeling a sensation of weightlessness cling to his joints as beams of various colors swept over his body. A wealth of data flashed on the technicians' consoles. Numbers, symbols, and digital scripts in a language Zayn could not fathom. He shuddered, remembering stories of alien abductions from half-baked tabloid headlines. Yet these beings exuded a curious mix of courtesy and seriousness, even if their objective was bizarre beyond measure. Tellerra soon explained, "The Federation has discovered, through centuries of research, that Earth humans possess a biological compatibility with nearly all species in the galaxy. Our genetic codes, diverse though they may be, align in essential ways with yours. Thus, after the intergalactic war, the new constitution demanded a means to rebuild and unify. That meant forging new alliances in a most intimate way." Zayn hopped down from the platform, brows knitted. "So, that means you want humans to marry aliens?" he asked, voice on the verge of cracking. The absurdity pressed down on him like a vice. Cora, still standing stiffly, nodded with measured gravity. It was determined by the High Council that every alien woman within the Federation must take a human husband if she desires to perpetuate her lineage. The synergy we share with your species is not merely genetic, but also cultural, for humans exhibit unique adaptability. Though sweat had beaded across his brow, Zayn managed a half-incredulous smile. "I'm just a mechanic from Chicago. Don't know how that places me in the cosmic lottery." Tellerra's eyes were gentle, and when she stepped forward, Zayn noticed how much taller she was than him. She stood near 7 feet, slender yet exuding a subtle strength. "We all must follow the codes. My station as princess demands that I, too, secure a union with a suitable human partner. There are many suitors, as you might imagine, but the Federation's data singled you out based on certain criteria: ingenuity, mechanical aptitude, empathy. The initial match made it clear that you might be the key to bridging worlds." He was still grappling with the outlandishness of it all, but the sincerity in her expression, coupled with his own sense of wonder, left him oddly receptive. Perhaps some primal part of him recognized that this was real, that the swirling lights and advanced technology were not illusions. And you said there's a station, the Interstellar Unity Station? Tellara nodded, motioning for him to follow. Cora walked close behind, silent as a sentinel. Yes, at the edge of your moon's orbit. It is there that you, and many others, will finalize your obligations according to the Galactic Marriage Act. It's a place of negotiation, of tradition, of forging interplanetary ties. Zayn's mouth felt dry. But I didn't ask for any of this, he whispered. Why me? And how is this going to work? The corridor they traversed opened into a hangar. Through transparent force fields, Zayn could behold the infinite sprawl of space, dotted with pinpricks of starlight. Ships of various shapes and sizes hovered, and robotic arms performed deft movements, loading cargo or recalibrating hull repairs. Floating scaffolds glimmered in arcs of luminescent energy. It was a vision from a future he never believed he would see. Tellara placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, her elongated fingers dwarfing his. You do not stand alone in this. We have extensive protocols, counsel, and resources to help humans adjust. Indeed, many have come before you. You are not the first, nor shall you be the last. Still, I realize this is overwhelming. Zayn swallowed. That's putting it lightly, he muttered, glancing at Earth, now far below them. Without further protest, he allowed the princess and her guardian to lead him aboard a smaller vessel that docked within the hangar. Within minutes, they launched, gliding smoothly across the vacuum. The silence of space, occasionally punctured by gentle thrums from the craft's engines, was both eerie and enthralling. Every cell in Zayn's body felt alive with the magnitude of what was happening. When they reached the Interstellar Unity Station, he saw it was a colossal construct, bigger than any terrestrial city, shaped like a spinning lattice of silver arcs that glimmered against the dark backdrop of space. It was as if an entire world had been built from geometric patterns, welded into a ring-like habitat rotating to generate artificial gravity. As the ship neared, docking arms extended, enveloping them and guiding them into an airlock. Inside, the station buzzed with a multitude of species, each more fantastic than the last, some with horns, some with luminescent scales, others with flowing hair-like appendages that shifted color depending on their mood. The corridors were decorated with banners of alien glyphs, each symbol presumably representing a different planet or faction. Zayn struggled to keep up with the kaleidoscope of life forms, stunned by how diverse the Federation seemed. At length, the princess and Cora ushered him into a tall chamber lined with pillars that seemed to reach the station's vaulted ceiling. In the center was a raised dais, illuminated by streams of pure white light. A figure in flowing robes of shimmering gold, presumably a council officiant, addressed them. Princess Tellara of Anthea of Volatur, welcome. And to you, Zayn Henley of Earth, greetings, said the officiant, voice echoing with layered resonance. You have been selected to fulfill the rights and duties as mandated by the Galactic Marriage Act. Under these provisions, you shall have 30 days to explore possible matches and choose your mate. Zayn's stomach twisted. Choose my mate. But I'm told that it's every alien woman who needs a human husband. How does that apply to me, specifically? The officiant's smile revealed a sense of practiced patience. Certain delegates, from various planets, shall have the opportunity to meet with you, and your acceptance of any betrothal, singular or otherwise, must be finalized within the allotted time frame. The Federation prioritizes genuine bonds, so there is, ironically, an element of courtship involved. Zayn nearly felt faint. For a man who had only occasionally fumbled through awkward dates on Earth, the idea of courting not one, but possibly multiple alien women from different corners of the galaxy seemed beyond daunting. And if I refuse, he asked quietly. The station does not condone forced unions, the officiant replied, though his tone softened sympathetically. However, the law is very clear. Any human who refuses to choose a partner will cause significant political strain. The Federation has spent centuries forging alliances, and these marriages serve as potent symbols of unity. I implore you to keep an open heart and mind. A swirl of conflicting emotions battered Zayn. Fear, curiosity, indignation, and a sense that something monumental was unfolding. He recalled the benign sincerity in Princess Tellara's eyes. As bizarre as the situation was, it did not feel wholly malicious. It was as though, in a cosmic twist, the galaxy was driven by a desire for synergy, and humans were at the nexus of it all. The next few days became a whirlwind of introduction and spectacle. Zayn was provided a modest apartment in one of the station's segments, albeit far more advanced than any earthly lodging he had known. It was outfitted with a bed that molded to his form, lighting that responded to mental commands, and a replicator that could conjure almost any meal he desired. Through a broad window, he could see the endless majesty of space, occasionally catching the glint of Earth's distant oceans. Guides, each belonging to different species, explained how the next 30 days would proceed. The station served as a meeting place for countless potential brides from among the Federation's worlds, all of whom were entitled to choose or be chosen by human husbands. Zayn soon realized he was not the only Earthman on the station. There were entire enclaves of humans, each grappling with the same overwhelming reality. Some had been there for weeks, forging close bonds with alien partners. Others were terrified and remained in seclusion, searching desperately for a loophole to return home. Yet none of them had quite the presence that clung to Zayn. He was a direct selection by a princess. Station gossip moved at light speed, carrying his name to every corner. Other envoys, hearing that Princess Tellara herself had personally escorted him, began to whisper that he might be a key figure in forging interstellar alliances. Unsure how to handle such attention, Zayn simply tried to remain gracious and humble. He was, after all, just a grease-stained mechanic from Chicago. It did not take long for him to discover that multiple suitors awaited. Over the following weeks, he was introduced to the likes of Princess Tellara of Vanthia, a proud, introspective royal from Volatur, graceful, articulate, and deeply curious about earthly customs. She valued Zayn's intelligence and mechanical know-how. Beneath her formal bearing lay a woman yearning to bond with someone genuine, who would see her for more than just a royal title. Dr. Verena Locke, a brilliant scientist from the planet Maranth. Her skin was silver blue, hair white as starlight, and she exuded an almost feverish fascination with Earth technology and biology. She was assigned to the station's research wing, exploring new frontiers of genetic synergy. In Zayn, she saw not just a potential spouse, but a partner for intellectual pursuits, a mind that could assist her in bridging the final unknown gaps between their species. Captain Rada Stalvik, a fierce warrior from the desert world of Karanti, clad in overlapping metal plates that shimmered with vibrant hues. She bore intricate tattoos signifying her clan's victories. She had come to the station under the belief that a strong alliance with a human husband could elevate her clan's status in the Federation. Initially, her interest in Zayn was purely political, but his resourcefulness in mechanical matters piqued her curiosity. She was unaccustomed to men who could fix contraptions with such ease, and she respected skill above all else. Balara Nav, a galactic celebrity from the entertainment world of Lyris Prime. With her pearl-pink complexion and mesmerizing, jewel-like eyes, she was famed across the galaxy for her soaring vocals and hypnotic dance performances. She had joined the station to fulfill the requirement of the Marriage Act, but also to locate a human partner who could join her on tour across countless star systems. She found Zayn's humble, grounded nature charming, so different from the adoring fans and sycophants who surrounded her. Each of these women, different in temperament and ambition, would cross Zayn's path in ways that tested his understanding of the cosmos and his own heart. At first, he dreaded these encounters, feeling unworthy and out of place. But as day bled into day, he found a curious sense of excitement blossoming within him. The station thrummed with energy, celebrations of various alien holidays, markets filled with goods from star systems he'd never heard of, conversations and languages that lit up the air with color-coded glyphs. He tried to maintain an open mind, meeting each suitor in communal areas, gardens glowing with bioluminescent flora, lounges that spun gently in microgravity, or observation decks that gave a panoramic view of passing meteors. Despite the extraordinary circumstances, Zayn discovered that all four of these women yearned for genuine connection. The cosmic edict demanding they take a human husband might have brought them to him by happenstance, but each had her own reasons for seeking more than a mere ceremonial bond. Princess Tellara, in particular, showed him kindness that went beyond royal duty. She invited him to a private voluntary garden on the station, where massive blossoms vibrated with pastel hues under artificial sunlight. She gently demonstrated how the plants responded to emotional impulses, fluttering or coiling based on subtle chemical signals. As they walked among the pollen-laden paths, she confessed that her family line had endured countless political marriages, none founded on love. She desired something different, an alliance forged through understanding and respect. Seeing Zayn's awestruck expression at the wonders of her culture, she was filled with hope. Meanwhile, Dr. Verena Locke brought him to her laboratory, a dizzying expanse of test tubes, scanning equipment, and data streams that projected across the walls. She explained the intricacies of cross-species compatibility, hypothesizing that Earth humans represented some evolutionary keystone, which might, in time, unify the entire galaxy into a single genetic tapestry. Zayn marveled at her brilliance, often stammering in the face of her advanced theories. Yet she glowed with genuine admiration each time he offered a mechanic's perspective on the station's hardware. He could coax machines to life with an innate talent that left her riveted. Captain Rada Stalvik was more challenging. She insisted on testing Zayn's physical prowess in a VR combat simulation. Though reluctant, he agreed, more for curiosity than pride. Within the simulated desert plains, he was forced to dodge holographic predators and disarm robotic foes. Of course, the gallant captain outshone him by leaps and bounds, her reflexes honed through a lifetime of warfare. Yet, when she found him tinkering with the VR system's hardware to stabilize a malfunction mid-session, she burst into laughter. "I've never seen a man attempt to fix the program from the inside," she said with deep amusement, offering him a warrior's handshake once they exited the simulation. Through that odd turn, she began respecting his ingenuity, an admiration that gradually blossomed into warmth. Balaranov's approach was an entirely different experience, drenched in the glamour of the entertainment world. She whisked Zayn into other rings of the station where concerts were held in zero gravity. There, illuminated by swirling spotlights, she performed ethereal songs that caused even the vacuum to resonate with haunting melodies. She introduced him to her retinue, managers, stylists, and fans, and while Zayn felt overwhelmed, he also recognized in Balara a soul wearied by attention. She seemed enthralled by his unassuming manner, someone who saw her not as a star, but as a person. Slowly, her flirtatious banter revealed a deep loneliness. Fame, she explained, never filled the void in her heart. One day bled into another, each one brimming with new wonders. Zayn was introduced to cultural festivals, to exotic cuisines, to mind-bending technologies. He would eat spice fruits from the dunes of Karandi, watch mesmerizing holographic art from Lyris Prime, and wander the drifting aisles of Volatu's curated environment. All the while, whispers of the ticking countdown fluttered at the back of his mind. 30 days, then he must make a choice. He sensed the enormous weight of that duty, knowing that the selection of one suitor would form a bond bridging entire worlds. Torn by indecision, he sought counsel from unexpected quarters, acquaintances he made among other humans on the station. Some men, faced with a similar predicament, gave him playful jibes about being spoiled for choice. Others offered caution, urging him to consider political ramifications. Still others told him that while the situation was forced, it did not preclude genuine feelings from emerging. As the deadline loomed, Zayn wrestled with the knowledge that each woman had touched a part of his heart. Telara's regal compassion, Verena's intellectual fire, Rada's warrior spirit, and Balara's artistic depth, he could not ignore that he felt drawn to each of them for different reasons. He found himself pacing the confines of his apartment at odd hours, mind churning, soul adrift. Back on Earth, he had never encountered such a dilemma. Now, his choice carried cosmic significance. On the eve of his 30th day aboard the station, he was summoned to a grand council hall. The walls and domed ceiling were made of opalescent glass, revealing the star-studded emptiness beyond. A hushed crowd of observers, both humans and aliens, gathered in balconies around the chamber. Tension charged the air. The officiant who had welcomed him stepped onto the dais, raising a staff that gleamed with captured starlight. Zayn Henley, the officiant intoned, voice carrying across the hall, "The time has come for you to declare your choice. According to the Galactic Constitution, you must select a mate and pledge yourself." A hush fell. Telara, Verena, Rada, and Balara each stepped forward, forming a semicircle around him. Zayn's heart pounded, not merely out of fear, but from the raw significance of the moment. He gazed at them, these four remarkable women, each wearing their own expression of hope, anxiety, and resolve. In a deep breath, Zayn spoke. "With the limited time we've had, I've come to care about each of you. In your own way," he began, voice quivering slightly. "I can't deny that I am deeply torn. The Federation wants me to choose, but I can't overlook that each of you has touched my life in ways unimaginable. I propose something different. Instead of choosing one, I ask if the Federation might allow an unprecedented multi-partner alliance. A collective gasp rose from the assembled crowd. Even the officiant's eyes bulged slightly in astonishment. Zayn pressed on, emboldened by the hush in the hall. I know the act states that alien women must each have a human husband, but it never explicitly says one man can't ally with more than one partner, if all parties agree. My world, Earth, often has different customs, but this entire scenario is new territory. If we truly want to unify, is it not better to consider a union that bridges multiple planets all at once? He felt sweat gather on his brow as murmurs rippled through the onlookers. Tellara, Verena, Rada, and Balera exchanged stunned looks. For a moment, Zayn worried he had made a colossal mistake, that his proposal would offend everyone. But Princess Tellara's expression soon shifted to cautious wonder, as though she recognized the magnitude of his offer. Finally, the officiant lowered his staff, voice echoing, "Such a proposal is highly unorthodox. The Federation has never experienced a request like this. But the law does not forbid it, only states that each alien woman must bind herself to a human husband. If all parties consent, there is no violation of existing mandates." Dr. Verena was the first to step forward, eyes gleaming. "Zayn, are you certain about this? You'd be forging a union across multiple species, entangling yourself in more politics than any Earth human has faced." He took a shaky breath and nodded. "I know it won't be simple, but none of this is simple. What's the point of forging new alliances if we don't push the boundaries of what's possible? I don't want to lose any of you. I believe each of you can teach me something different, and I hope I can offer a part of me, my mechanical sense, my earthling perspective, to all of you. Together, perhaps we can shape a new path for the galaxy." Captain Rada regarded him with narrowed eyes, searching for any sign of weakness or deceit. Eventually, she let out a spirited laugh. "You are bold, Earthman. I admire boldness. If this is the alliance you propose, you shall have my blade at your side." Baleranov, tears glistening in her jewel-like eyes, offered a radiant smile. Yes, I want to be part of this. You have shown me that love can be genuine, beyond stage lights and applause. If you want me to, I would stand beside you." Princess Tellara glanced at Cora, her devoted guardian, who stood just behind her. Cora gave a subtle nod of approval. Then, the princess stepped closer, placing her hand on Zayn's. "I accept your proposal, Zayn Henley. May our union herald a new chapter in Federation history." Her words sparked a wave of applause. Cheers and gasps mingled among the crowd. News of this unprecedented arrangement spread with the speed of solar winds, coursing through the station's many corridors and soon reaching the farthest corners of the Federation. Thus did the officiant, with measured gravity, raise his staff again. "By the authority of the Galactic Marriage Act, on the Interstellar Unity Station, we endorse this multi-partner alliance. May the bond shared by Zayn Henley of Earth, Princess Tellara of Vanthia of Volater, Dr. Verena Locke of Maranth, Captain Rada Stalvik of Karanti, and Balera Nav of Lyris Prime stand firm. Let this union serve as a testament to the unity we strive for." A reverent hush fell over the great hall. Then, as though an invisible conductor had waved a baton, triumphant music resonated through the space, accompanied by swirling lights from the station's overhead projectors. The newly formed group, Zayn and his 4 alien brides, stood together, uncertain yet exhilarated, dwarfed by the cosmic stage upon which they had just embarked. In the following months, life on the station took on a rhythm both unexpected and challenging. Each bride retained her own duties to her homeworld, and Zayn found himself traveling more than he ever imagined. He became a frequent visitor to Volater, delving into the kingdom's advanced engineering projects under the watchful eye of the princess and her staff. Alongside Dr. Verena, he scoured the station's research archives, gleaning new ideas for mechanical and biological breakthroughs. With Captain Rada, he toured the far-flung edges of the galaxy, forging alliances between clans who had long harbored grievances. Meanwhile, Balera invited him to appear as a special guest at her performances, a novelty that thrilled audiences unaccustomed to seeing a human so intimately linked to a galactic superstar. At times, the complexities of balancing 4 distinct relationships wore on Zayn. There were political disagreements to navigate, cultural misunderstandings to settle, and the ever-looming eyes of the Federation press to manage. Yet, in those rare moments of quiet, when he and his wives gathered in a secluded lounge or a tranquil garden, they found solace in each other's company. The synergy they shared, born of mutual respect, love, and curiosity, helped them weather the storms of interstellar politics. Galaxy-wide, The ramifications of their alliance were immediate and profound. Other couples, inspired by the multi-partner precedent, began forming similarly complex unions, bridging species that had rarely interacted. The Federation, initially shocked, gradually adapted its protocols to accommodate the surge in interest. Debates raged on the station floor. Some traditionalists condemned this polyunion as heresy, while progressives applauded it as the harbinger of a bright new age. For Zayn himself, the mechanic from Chicago who had once known only the greasy solitude of a garage, life became a tapestry of wonder. He traveled across solar systems faster than the speed of light, witnessed phenomena that defied earthly comprehension, and discovered that the spark of romance could ignite across boundaries of color, form, and biology. The ancient prejudices that once divided species began to crumble in the face of such tangible proof that love could flourish anywhere. Back on Earth, the revelation that their planet's inhabitants were needed across the galaxy eventually seeped into the public consciousness. The Federation established official emissaries, forging lines of communication with Earth's governments and paving the way for humans to voluntarily visit the Interstellar Unity Station. Though not all Earthlings agreed with the prospect of cosmic marriage, many were intrigued, even eager, lured by the promise of new experiences and the opportunity to shape intergalactic history. Through it all, Zayn remained steadfast, refusing to let newfound celebrity or interstellar politics corrode his humility. His wives teased him sometimes, saying that he was too modest for a galactic icon, but he only chuckled. If there was one thing he had learned, it was that cosmic importance did not erase the simple joy of being oneself. In that final sense, the man who had once been an obscure mechanic found a measure of truth in the chaos. Love, in all its forms, was the most potent force in the universe. And so, our story concludes not with a solitary vow or a forced marriage to a single alien bride, but with a bold, transformative union that reshaped the course of the Federation. Across the far reaches of the galaxy, shimmering with stars yet uncharted, the name Zayn Henley carried a powerful message that when acceptance, curiosity, and hope intertwine, no frontier, no matter how vast, remains out of reach. Happy ending. Each individual, Zayn, Telera, Verena, Rada, and Balera, found companionship, purpose, and joy within this unlikely alliance. Their multi-partner marriage breathed renewed optimism into the Federation, sowing new seeds of understanding across 1,000 worlds. In their private moments, unburdened by official duties or galactic ceremonies, the five of them could simply share laughter, stories, and quiet affection, forging a life that thrived on every unique thread they brought to the tapestry. And as they gazed out from the observation decks of the Interstellar Unity Station, watching cosmic dust swirl across the infinite expanse, they knew that together, they had found the most extraordinary adventure of all, an adventure called love.